We are now going to talk a bit about the context of the adoption of the condominial system by Caesb. The condominial system has been implemented here in Brasilia for 32 years. So in 1991, here in Brasilia, we had 75% coverage with the existing sanitary sewage system. But at the same time, the city was growing rapidly, so there was significant growth. It was the highest growth in Brazil because many people wanted to come to the capital. It was the dream of having a better life, improving their income and enhancing their family's quality of life. So a lot of people were coming to Brasilia, and the city could no longer accommodate everyone. Families would build a shack in the backyard, then another, and suddenly there would be 4 or 5 families living on the same lot. And the government realized this and felt pressured to solve this very serious housing problem. So a large settlement program was created where the government would establish several neighborhoods which were called satellite cities, but now we refer to them as administrative regions. The goal was to create 100,000 more lots, which would mean an additional 500,000 people. So at that time, we already had a deficit of about 500,000 people who needed to be accommodated. And on top of that, there was a proposal to add another 500,000 people, which was part of the program. So this would result in a deficit of roughly 1 million people. To address this, the government presented Caesb with a major challenge, which was to try to find a more accessible technology, both from an economic and a social perspective for that situation, because the system we had was the conventional one, but it was very expensive. And alongside this urgent need to expand the city, which was not an easy expansion, as it was a city with 1 to 1.5 million inhabitants, but was about to add another 500,000 lots in a short period of time. So the situation was somewhat critical, and that is why the government sought out solutions, studied various alternatives, and among the options considered, the one that best fit was the condominial system, because it was based on 2 principles which were important for the government. On one hand, we were introducing a technology that was simpler, faster to implement and more affordable, and on the other hand, there was a very important factor which was community participation, bringing the community closer. So this was something that greatly interested the government, and at that moment was seen as extremely important because we had people coming from all over Brazil, and we were already facing a situation where sewage was running through the streets. So the situation was precarious, and because of that, we decided, let's bring in the condominial system, let's run a pilot project for this. So at the time, a pilot system was proposed, and since everything was very urgent and emergent, the pilot system was implemented in situations where there were already contracts for the areas where construction contracts were about to begin. So there were 5 or 6 areas that were selected as pilot projects. And the idea was to test the condominial system in different areas. So these conventional construction contracts were converted into condominial projects. And over the course of 2 years, Caesb hired a consulting firm, which was a company specialized in condominial, to come here. This company stayed for 2 years, and the goal was to transfer technology from outside to inside. So during those 2 years, Caesb's technicians worked alongside the technicians from this company so that we could build an internal foundation within the organization. From the very beginning, the company aimed to institutionalize the process. And after those 2 years, Caesb took over everything, and that's what happened. The company stayed for 2 years. After 2 years, the company left, and Caesb took full responsibility for the entire process. So when the pilot project was finished, Caesb then decided, okay, now that we've completed this pilot, what's next? And since the pilot was highly successful, Caesb adopted the condominial system as the standard for service. So from that point on, all areas, every sewage system implemented here uses the condominial system. Since 1991, Caesb has not installed conventional systems anywhere. It's condominial for everyone. And this was something extremely important, something that provided a solid foundation and gave strength to the initiative. 2 key aspects: the institutionalization of the process within the company and establishing it as the standard. In other words, everyone uses the same system. Everyone follows the same rules, everyone has the same rights and the same responsibilities, and it's been 32 years. Over these 32 years, we have served more than half of the population of the Federal District. Today, 54% of the entire population of the Federal District. The Federal District has 3.1 million inhabitants. And of that, 54% are served by the condominial system. And this percentage is only expected to increase because Caesb, in all other areas and in every new expansion, will only implement the condominial system. Today, we have a high level of coverage. 92.3% of the population in the Federal District is already served. But for the remaining areas, everything that is still missing will be served by condominial. So we have just over 7% left. But this little more than 7% will be condominial, and there is still all the future growth that the city will experience. So the condominial system is the service standard. It has been a very successful model. And today, Caesb recognizes that using the condominial model has been the biggest factor in reaching universal service coverage in the Federal District.